All right, let's get right into it. We live in a world that's all about competition, right? But what happens when the biggest breakthroughs, the real game changers, actually require fierce rivals to, well, to work together? Today, we're diving into a blueprint designed to make those seemingly impossible collaborations actually possible. The whole thing kicks off with this really powerful line, and it just sets the stage perfectly. I mean, you look around and you can see it everywhere. Systems are failing because the key players just can't, or maybe won't, cooperate. The problem is staring us right in the face, but a real solution has always felt just out of reach. And this really is the core of the problem, isn't it? It's a total paradox. You've got these competitors, regulators, entire communities who all know they'd be better off if they could just build something new together. So, what's stopping them? The answer, in one simple word, is trust. And that creates a complete deadlock. Progress just grinds to a halt because nobody can make the first move without taking on all the risk. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack a fascinating new model from our source document. It's like a blueprint for a kind of licensed architect for trust, designed to break this very stalemate. Okay, so before we jump into the solution, we really have to understand the problem at its roots. The source material identifies what it calls the 4 impossibilities. These are 4 deep structural barriers that pretty much guarantee these kinds of collaborations fail before they even get off the ground. Let's break these down. First step, you've got what's called the diagnostic impossibility. Basically, any single player is just too biased, too deep in the weeds, to see the whole picture clearly. Second, the convening impossibility. Think about it. If one competitor calls a meeting, everyone else is going to assume it's a trap. Third, the constitutional impossibility. The legal frameworks, the actual rule books for these new kinds of cooperative ventures, they literally haven't been written yet. And finally, the verification impossibility. How do you prove, in a way that everyone agrees is fair and secure, who actually contributed what? And when you put those 4 things together, what do you get? You get total paralysis, a system-wide stalemate. The risk of being the first one to stick your neck out is just way too high, so nobody moves. At all. So how on earth do you break a deadlock that's this fundamental? Well, you introduce a brand new player into the game. A player whose entire job, whose sole purpose is to be completely and verifiably neutral. The source material proposes this new kind of entity, calling it the Prosperity Co-Creation Corp, or PCC, designed specifically to solve for that missing trust. Now, what's really interesting here is the language they use. It's so precise. See, PCC isn't just another consultant or some kind of middleman. Its role is much deeper. It's foundational, almost like writing a constitution. It's there to engineer the very structure of the collaboration. And then it sticks around to act as an independent inspector, making sure everyone plays by the rules they all agreed on. This is the key analogy, and honestly, it makes so much sense. Imagine you're building a brand new city from scratch. You'd need an architect for the blueprints, right? A surveyor to map the land, and an independent inspector to make sure everything's built to code. PCC does all of that, but for a business ecosystem. It doesn't own the city, it doesn't own any of the buildings, it just guarantees the fairness and the structural integrity of the entire project. Okay, so it's a cool concept, this architect of trust, but how does it actually work in the real world? Well, the process is laid out in 4 very concrete steps, and it takes us from that initial messy idea all the way to a fair, verified payout. These are the 4 key deliverables in the whole journey. It all starts with a blue point, which is basically a detailed map of the problem and all the potential value locked inside. Then comes the smart constitution. These are the actual rules of the game that everyone agrees to. After that, you get the verified contribution ledger, a totally neutral, secure record of who did what. And it all wraps up with the dividend audit, the final proof that shows everyone got their fair share exactly according to the. You see what's happening here, right? This process creates this unbroken chain of trust. Every single step is transparent, it's verifiable, and it's designed to take a system from a state of complete distrust to one where a fair distribution of value isn't just a promise, it's provable. But, of course, the whole thing falls apart if you can't trust the architect. I mean, that's the whole point. So, how is that neutrality guaranteed? Well, it's not just a promise, it's literally baked into the organization's DNA. Okay, this slide is absolutely crucial. Just look at what PCC is forbidden from doing. It doesn't hold or distribute the money. It doesn't compete with the very partners it's bringing together. It doesn't own any operational assets. Its one and only job is to provide that verified proof and maintain the integrity of the system's rules. In other words, its power comes from its limitations. That's what makes it so credible. And hey, if the constitutional rules aren't enough to convince you, just follow the money. Its economic model isn't built for a quick payday. Nope. It is specifically designed for permanent, long-term alignment with the success of the project. So, first up, there's a fixed one-time activation fee. This just covers the cost of creating that initial diagnostic blueprint. It allows the main client to see the full potential and the path forward before they have to commit to the whole thing. It's all about de-risking that first step. Next, there's something called a metabolic fee. You can think of this as the cost of keeping the lights on for the verification system. It's a tiny 2% royalty on the value flowing through this new ecosystem, and it pays for the ongoing, non-stop work of maintaining that trusted, neutral ledger. And this is the real kicker, the most important piece. PCC receives a small but permanent share of the dividends created. It's called a stewardship share. It's not a fee, it's an aligned interest. It means PCC only succeeds if the collaboration succeeds, not just on day one, but forever. Their only incentive is the long-term health and prosperity of the very system they help bring to life. So when you put all of these pieces together, you've got the neutral architect, the transparent process, the aligned economics, you start to see the huge, big picture vision behind this whole framework. This table does a great job of clarifying how all the power is separated. You've got PCC, the architect and inspector. Then there's this other piece, the social helix, which acts kind of like the city's land registry. It guards the core rules that can never be changed. And finally, you have the regenerative entity. That's the thriving city itself, which executes the plan and distributes a full 98% of the value it creates back to its stakeholders. Each part has a distinct, non-overlapping role, which ensures no single entity ever has too much power. And that's the real endgame here. It's not about just completing one project. It's about creating a repeatable model for launching these new kinds of sovereign, self-sustaining organizations, ones that can actually thrive by fostering deep cooperation instead of just endless competition. And this quote from the source material just sums it all up perfectly. PCC's role is not to be the hero, not to own the outcome. Its job is simply to provide the tools, the trust, and the confidence so that others can build their own futures. Which leaves us with a final and pretty fascinating question. If a framework like this can get fierce corporate rivals to build something new together, what other impossible problems could it solve? Think about things like climate change, or global supply chains, or public health. What could we build if we had a trusted, neutral architect for our biggest, most complex societal challenges? Now that is a powerful idea to think about.